That is a really cool thing.
That is really cool.
All right, guys, we're here today to talk about the Veteran Electrical Entry Program, or the Veep program. Just want to start by some introductions. So what's your name and then what do you do?
Yeah, I'm Robbie Foxen. I'm with Missouri Valley Line Constructors. I'm the executive director, also a journeyman lineman. I graduated through Missouri Valley about 22 years ago, and we cover a 7-state area in the Midwest and cover a 4-year apprenticeship for 7 different states.
My name is David Ball. I'm the director for Quanta Services Electrical Line Worker Program, our pre-apprenticeship program here at the Lazy Q.
My name is Kevin Castle. I'm the director for American Line Builders Apprenticeship and Training. I'm a journeyman lineman. I also went through the ALBAT program. Topped out almost 30 years ago.
I'm Jason Iannelli, director with the Electrical Training Alliance. I too went through apprenticeship through the NEAT committee, and journeyman lineman 22 years. Now I work for the National Apprenticeship.
So the reason for this conversation, again, is to take a veteran from active duty or transitioning out of active duty all the way through to becoming a journeyman lineman, what that looks like, the opportunities that exist, because there are some opportunities that exist to help that veteran get there. So that's what we primarily want to talk about today. So David, maybe for you to kick this off is, what does that look like? What do veterans struggle with transitioning from military to civilian life, and how can something like this program help them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's probably a good opportunity to also point out, Kevin is as well a vet, Marine Corps vet. I was an Army vet. The only job I ever had in my life from 18 until my late 20s when I got out was in the Army, and then coming into line work. So, this is kind of the only 2 things I've ever done. Definitely when you're coming out of the military, it's all of a sudden everything is changing rapidly. The experiences you had, the people that you knew, and the training you received in the military is suddenly you're going through a transition phase in your life, and you're trying to figure out what the next opportunity is. But the skills and capabilities that make you who you are still there. You just need to apply them into a new area, and trying to find out where that area is and what you're going to be successful at is going to be the most critical part of that. And that's kind of where, for myself and Kevin, I know I kind of talk for you here a little bit too, is we feel very passionately about that line work is a great spot for vets to go into. They have a lot of those basic abilities that are going to make them successful in this career.
Kevin, what are some of those like those characteristics of a veteran that work well with line work?
The purpose and dedication. They see a mission and they go after it. When I got out in the 80s, there wasn't anything like this around. You did your EAS, you got out, and you went home and figured it out on your own. So this is totally awesome to be able to do this. I went to college first thinking I wanted to be in college, and I missed that camaraderie. I missed the purpose that I had behind, being a Marine, and just that overall being with the guys every day. So I had some family that was in the industry, and I think I was in the junior year of college, and they're like, hey, go be a groundman and get some money and go back to college. So I did, and I got out there, and I'm like, I'm home. This is just like being in a squad, being in a Marine unit. I got that sense of purpose again. I had the same black sense of humor, dark sense of humor. It was there, and that purpose, especially that first storm, you go and you do that restoration, and you have that sense of accomplishment. It's just undeniable.
So that sense of accomplishment is like the key thing that binds it. That's really interesting. Is there anything else like
I would say
the hands-on type, like?
You missed the guy. I mean, definitely. Well, I'll answer your question, but I wanted to piggyback on something too. You miss the guys out of the military. That's who you miss more than anything else. And what you miss is that feeling of accomplishment as part of a small group of people working towards a common goal, and that's line work too. Yeah. But I think you asked a question, and that was about the hands-on portion of it.
Yeah, just some other types of skills that are transitionable as well.
I'll speak for myself. I think I joined the military because I wanted to be outside. I was looking for adventure. I was looking for travel. I was looking for I wasn't afraid of a hard day's work, and that's once again, they line up, you know.
We talked. You guys mentioned. I do want to go back to this, so I'll go back right now. Back to that brotherhood, sisterhood feeling, and how amazing that is. And I often reference the military when I talk about that brotherhood, sisterhood, because I was never a vet myself, but I figure that it's got to be similar. When you spend as much time with a crew, like a line crew, that you do, it's almost, we've all heard it, you spend more time with your line crew than you do with your own family. So it really creates that bond. And it's not just the time spent, it's like what you do with that time. I've found like the time, linemen spend time together in precarious situations, you know, and I think that really helps with that bond as well. Like, hey, I got your back, you got mine. Like when you're up in a bucket and you're working in tight corridors on some live wires, you know, that sense that somebody's like watching my six really builds that bond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that also flows into family life too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I really liked about line work for myself, going through apprenticeship, for the same reasons that everybody else stated. But, you know, our profession, we travel a lot. Knowing that my pole buddy's wife's there to help my family, or when I have to leave my family in a storm restoration to go help somebody else, I know somebody's coming in to take care of my family.
Yeah.
You don't see that a lot. And with a lot of the veterans that are coming out, from my standpoint, they already have the benchmarks of what we need for our industry. They know what it's like to work in a team, brotherhood, sisterhood, critical thinking, the value of a life. I mean, that is something that we have to try and train people off the street, Joe Public. These guys are coming with it already. They might not have identified it that way, but that's what we need. And that's what makes our careers, our families successful.
Mm-hmm. Robbie, what's your experience with transitioning vets into line work?
I'd piggyback what Kevin said, that, you know, back in the 80s and 90s, there was really no pathway, and now there's so many more pathways, whether it be through the Veep program, helmets to hard hats. We offer direct interview, direct entry into our apprenticeship programs, and we provide a step-by-step process all the way for that vet. That way we can actually transition them from exiting the military, help them get the CDL and get into our programs, and ultimately get them through that 4-year apprenticeship to become a journeyman lineman.
How have you found veterans transitioning into line work? How have you found that mix, that mash? Is it a good mix? Is it a good career choice for vets?
I think so. I mean, they're used to having that mission, so to speak. They're used to taking orders, so they have that discipline. They're used to travel. They're used to hard work, working outside. All that goes together with line work. We work in all the outside elements, so there's no going home and packing it up if it's too cold or too hot. After a tornado hits, you know, they're working 20 hours a day. I'm sure that transitions into the military and a lot of their missions, you know, going on long missions and getting very little sleep and working in the harsh weather, so to speak.
Cool. All right, Jason, we'll ask you the question, and anyone else feel free to expand upon it. I want to get into talking about what line work is for like a veteran who doesn't really know anything about the job, maybe stumbled upon it for the first time. What is a lineman? What is line work? What do we do in this trade?
Line work in this trade, for anybody that's looking at it, is one of those, you know, professions that not a lot of people know about. They see us, but they don't really know what we do. For a lineman, we can do anything from house services to transmission lines, distribution, substations, basically anything that's outside, attached to the grid, that's high voltage. That's really what separates our career path from others, is we do everything in the air against elements. You know, everything that they taught you in school. Don't go up heights, don't play in the snow, don't play with electricity. That's what we do. And there's a sense of pride, and we step you know, I kind of look at it this way, that our profession is very hazardous, but that's through apprenticeship, we teach you all the safety measures and how to be successful. Line work is working hard, responsibility, taking direction, and it provides you a very good lifestyle. You get to travel, see the world on somebody else's pay, you get a nice benefit, you get health insurance and stuff like that. Line work, really, you know, the world cannot operate until we do our job. You know, everybody can wire a hospital, but until the line crews get there and give it power, the hospital's useless. And you're going to work hard, you're going to sweat, there's a lot of rigging, there's a lot of common sense, and I think, when we talk about apprenticeship and the veterans, they're already used to that, taking direction, because in our line of career, like I said earlier, it's very dangerous, but we give you all the safety measures, but on a typical day, you can make one mistake and it can be catastrophic. So taking direction, have a good work ethic, understanding that you're a piece of the puzzle, but everything else outside of you is dictated by what you do. We can't restore people's lives unless we're successful in our trade. We can't build the grid better to give everybody a better lifestyle until we do our job. And you'll do everything in line work from cell towers, solar, wind farms, distribution, underground railroad, what am I forget? Splicing, traffic signals, ramp metering,
substations,
cameras.
I would say 200 feet in the air and 50 feet underground and everything in between.
Flashlight battery to lightning bolt.
One thing that I've always thought about the military, and again, I'm not a vet, so I don't know specific, but Kevin and David, you could speak on this, is everyone thinks the military is always all about leadership, when really the following aspect is just as important. And that's something that I've noticed with vets in the line trade is you can take orders, so to speak, right? They know how to follow, which is very important, because it seems like in today's day and age, a lot of just the random kid off the street doesn't necessarily know how to follow directions anymore. That's what it seems like to me. I'll expand upon that a little bit.
There's another part to that too, which is that the military teaches both sides of that. The military because you have to be able to do both. Each person has to be able to do both follow and take charge. Take charge when nobody else is taking charge, and follow when directed to. And that is even harder to find. It really is. So, and I think line work is a lot the same way. You have to have a backbone and do the right thing even when no one's looking. But you also have to be able to, as you take direction and do, follow the guidance of the journeyman as an apprentice, follow the guidance of the journeyman that you're working for.
So Kevin, what's your advice to vets then? Because I've heard them have this question, I don't know if I want to go back to to the bottom. I don't want to start again from the bottom. What's your advice to that vet?
Your sense of accomplishment with it. You're not, yes, you go to the bottom in a sense, but you're constantly learning. You're constantly, even as a journeyman, you're constantly learning. There's always new things coming out, new ways to learn things. So yes, you start at the bottom, but, and to the point we were talking about earlier, the best leaders are also the best followers. Yeah. And even as a young apprentice, a young groundman, if they see a critical error happen in the field, they have to have that toward that leadership to be able to stop the work before that critical point happens. So it's not one of those deals where you're starting out and here I'm starting out with crayons and then I'm going. You're progressing every 6 months. You're progressing a new step. You're the big critical one. The critical ones is third step in our area. Third step is when you become a hot apprentice. That's when you're going up in the primary voltage. So and then when you get a little bit farther, you keep learning. There's so much to learn and constantly learn that I don't know that you ever feel that you're starting from the bottom. You just feel like that constant learning.
When I've been asked that question, I've tried to answer in a way saying don't even worry about it. This is nothing out of the ordinary of something that you've gone through in your military experience. You're gonna, start at the bottom, but as long as you're giving it all you got, you're working hard, you're showing some enthusiasm, you're showing up on time, all those things, those attributes that you already possess, as long as you're doing that, you're gonna be left alone. In fact, you're gonna be wanted on every job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're still part of that team.
Yeah.
You're an integral part of that team. You're just learning at a faster pace, and then you learn a little bit slower the higher up you get, and then when you become a journeyman. But like I said, you're always learning, and you're always part of that team.
I want to piggyback on a question you had before about what linemen are, and one of the things that really intrigues me about the industry that I love about it is is you're not in a factory punching out widgets. It is always changing. It is always something different. I mean, a journeyman lineman can operate everything from a crane to yellow iron to driving a truck and multi-truck and axle and trailer to climbing in the air and hanging off a helicopter and everything in between. And it's always something new and different. And the other thing about it, when we talk about it, this is never a job that's going to get outsourced to somebody. We are, no matter what the future holds, it's going to be electrical. So those are the two parts to the trade that I think are just make it something special.
We've talked a lot about going through something like a worldwide pandemic, where a lot of industries really, really felt it, and I don't think that our industry really skipped a beat. We're able to keep employed, stay working, feed your family. It just seems like one of those types of careers that's a pretty solid career to get into in that way.
Yep.
And the nice thing through the pandemic is, one, I agree with you, we didn't slow down. We kept increasing.
Yeah.
It was one of those trades that were just hiring and hiring and hiring, because nobody can do anything without us.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things, to your point about being outsourced. We never slow down.
Yeah. Well, all I see is accelerating as we talk about whether transition to renewable energy or something else that may even be on the horizon. It's all of this is going to impact our electrical grid and our infrastructure, and there seems to be, we're in the middle of a multi-generational build out of some type or another. We're technology agnostic. If we develop cold fusion, or if we all put a solar panel on our house, it's going to need linemen involved to set that up.
Robbie, do you have anything to add with what line work is or what a lineman does from your experience?
Just the travel, the camaraderie, that mission to work with your crew members. Every crew member is, in a way, a leader of safety, right? So that two-way communication, that comes from military as well, that ties into line work. A lot with switching procedures and storm restoration, and when you get a line clearance before you ground a line. There's always two-way communication with your crew and the power company that gives you a clearance on that line, so to speak. So there's so many different avenues that military ties in with line work.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
I like the communication aspect. I struggle with today's day and age, as much opportunities and things that exist to help communication, like social media, like things like that. I feel like we're getting worse at communicating with each other when there's no reason for it. And that is something that I've noticed a vet can really bring to the program, or bring to line work, is communicating. Just that repeat back procedure. Like, I told you something, you tell me back that you understand that thing, so that I know that you understand what I just told you. Like, that sort of thing, amongst others, is important on the communication side.
It's critical to everybody.
It can be catastrophic if you don't have it.
Can I ask you guys a question? Yeah. What are the intangibles that a person needs to bring into apprenticeship? What are the things that they need to bring with them in order to be successful?
I'll go. From my opinion, and we've all been in the trade and training directors for years, so we get to see thousands of interviews per year for many years. The one thing that we can't teach is work ethic, how to show up on time, how to take direction and understand it. If they come in with those qualities, we can give you everything else. We don't really care what make of life you're from, if you're inner city, out in the farm area, what college degree or no college degree. If you come with them basic things, we can teach everything else.
Yep.
And I agree with Ryan, as I've seen personally over the years that the common skills you learned at home from your parents and family, uncle, how to read a tape measure, just basic stuff, how to select a socket or a wrench. I was down at a training center, and they had to actually redo, they allotted like 2 hours just to go over measurement and stuff like that. And it was a really nice classroom, and they were able to judge everybody off their monitors and stuff like that. Well, they found that the 2 hours was not enough, that they had to expand it to about 8 hours, because the majority of the class did not know how to read a tape measure. So there was things that, when we went through the trade that we were brought up with, but some of the students today, I have no idea how to do the basic things that we need in a trade.
Yeah. I always say that I think we have the ability to teach anybody everything that they need in order to be successful. But for me, I think that I've always said there are 4 things that a person needs to bring with them into this. They need to, they need to be comfortable at heights. That's a big part of the career. That's a big part of the trade. They need to be willing to travel because, I've always said that once we build a power line in your backyard, we don't need to build another one. So they need to, and then the last one is kind of joint at the hip. They need to have brains and brawn. The brains part of it is they need to have the basic ability in order to read and understand prints, instructions, schematics, understand basic electrical theory, and be able to accomplish it. And then the brawn part of it is that they need to be able to willing and interested in working outside in the elements. And so I don't know if you guys have anything you want to add to that, but those are the parts of that in order to see that success they need to bring in.
Yeah. And then once you're in, you need to learn the ability to be a teacher also. That's part of our trade. That's part of the apprenticeships. Everybody's teaching everybody. So, once you become a journeyman, you're teaching those apprentices under you. It's not like you go to school to become a teacher. You are a teacher by trade. Mm-hmm.
And also, as you progress in responsibilities in apprenticeship or outside of apprenticeship, but just on a crew, you're now training the next guy. Yep. Or a multiple bunch of guys. As you're learning the next step, you're also teaching them. Yep. And that becomes very, very critical. It's just that communication, Some people call it human performance, but the military does a great job teaching that. But that's some of the things that are lost is that human performance. Identify, you're having a bad day. All right, what's going on? You can just tell by his mannerism because like we discussed before, we're going to spend more time with each other than we will with our family. I'm going to know all of his kids' birthdays and stuff like that. I might not have met them, but that's the camaraderie. So we can understand each other and identify, hey, what's going on? All right, you take a step back, let's move forward. Mm-hmm. The cowboy days of our career needs to be over. There's times that you're going to have to get. But production should be, always met with safety and critical factors first. Take that human performance element out of it if you can.
Something that I've observed is a real positive attribute of veterans because they've been put in this situation already versus maybe somebody else of their age is their ability to problem solve and critically think through a problem, or no matter what problem that is. Even observed that with students, just the people that haven't been put in that situation kind of sit back and wait for others that have do all that heavy work, that critical thinking, that problem solving, and then they're happy to get in and help out, but they weren't the ones that actually took the initiative and solved the problem. Yep. And I've noticed that in vets that they're the first ones to it. They see what needs to be done. Yeah, exactly. They see, hey, that's a problem that needs to be solved. I'm going to go solve that problem, and they get in there and do it, and then everyone else kind of helps them out. Oh, I see what you're doing. Yeah.
And when you do that, the journeyman on your crew will love you for it too,
yep.
Right?
100%.
Yep.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay, what is, generic question for all of you, but you guys that are involved with the IBEW, for someone that maybe they've heard the word union before, they have no idea what it means, no idea what it means to be a part of a union, or how to join the union, that sort of thing. So what is the IBEW, International Brotherhood Electrical Workers Union? What is that?
So the IBEW, as we call it for short by the acronym, is one of the largest, if not the largest unions in our country. I think roughly right now we have a little over 750,000 members. Our country was built on unions. They kind of went away, but they're here. But the best benefit that I see as being a union member is, first and foremost, it's safety. They worry about the worker. And they provide you with a retirement, health insurance, multiple retirements and stuff like that. But more importantly, they're your voice to go to your employer or the industry and say, hey, we've been doing X. We have a contract. They fight for our rights, where we can concentrate on our job, our family, so on and so forth. So they make sure that wheel is keep going and going and going. rather than working for, you know, a different employer in a different area. Well, this year, kid, you know, money's tight, you're gonna get a 10-cent raise, or you're gonna get 3%. And you kind of got to take what they come with it, you know. The union is there to make sure that we're successful, that we can retire at the same pace and income that we have now. But most importantly, in my eyes, is the camaraderie and the safety aspect when it comes to it. Because that is first and foremost. Safety trumps everything.
Kevin, you want to expand upon that?
So the union, again, it's the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. So it's another brotherhood you become involved with. It focuses on your safety. It focuses on your ability. You know, the middle class, they say, is generated and was created by the unions. You know, it gives you that quality of life to be able to go out and do the things you want to do. And like Jason was alluding to, you know, you work under contracts. You know, it's not you're doing this today and this tomorrow. You have a contract you work under. So you know, and these people bargain for you, and you have represented rights under these bargaining units. It's almost as much a way of life as just being a lineman itself. You know, it all goes in together and becomes one big brotherhood. So it's not just a brotherhood of linemen. It's not just a brotherhood of the International Brotherhood. It's one big brotherhood together. For me, it always provided that purpose. It provided that other path to go down, and it made sense to me that I was represented at that point and I had a voice.
Robbie, you got anything to add to that?
I mean, the IBW is a labor union, so to speak. So there's, you know, a lot of labor laws that are going to protect you. The Department of Labor. So the union's always there to, if something does go wrong, to protect your best interest, and then also provide you a fair wage and benefit package through your collective bargaining agreement.
And the other thing it also does too is it helps bring up the unrepresented workers in any field. Meaning, you know, we have things called prevailing wage. Well, if our prevailing wage is $27 on this project per hour, you know, there's other linemen that might not be in the union, but the government says, so this prevailing wage job, you will pay this. So it helps bring up their standard of life, their pay, their retirement. We're kind of helping everybody. And I think that's huge for our country.
So if somebody's decided now, oh yeah, this sounds like a good thing I want to get into, how do they go about doing that? Where do they go? How do they join? That sort of stuff, the details.
So real simple, when we talk about the Veep program, they can come right through our website, which is into-veep, in2veep.com. They can apply directly to the area-wise, the training centers across the country. They can reach out to friends, family. I mean, there's so many ways that you can find information to get in. You apply, and basically, you know, you have to make yourself marketable. You know, one of the things that we see, you know, when me and David have been building this program, is especially vets or veterans, is they, for lack of better terms, maybe pistol whip the resume because they don't think there's no correlation of what they did in their military career to us. And we really, you know, get on them to say, give us everything. If you think it's immaterial, because right now you have a pool of, say, 100 people fighting for that one spot or 50 spots. Tell us everything, because you might not have any weight in it, but we see something in it. Market yourself. Also, you know, invest in your career. We know that, you know, our industry requires a CDL. Start working towards it. And really, when you get that call, you're ready to work. And all the things that we've talked about earlier, you know, show up, be ready to work, because like Kevin said, once they see initiative, they're going to keep getting you more work. They're not going to want to give up. I'm not going to want to give up Kevin because I know what he can do. Now, Johnny Public or whoever, well, he showed up late, or he's always on his phone, whatever. Take the initiative because you're investing in your career. That's the people that we want.
I want to talk a little bit about application process, because Jason was talking about the interview and application process. But so the applicant would apply to the Into Veep website if they're trying to come into the formal Veep program here at the Lazy Q. And that process looks like we receive those applications. They're going to be turned around. They're going to receive a questionnaire, just a generic questionnaire that's going to give them information about the program. some basic questions about themselves to make sure that they qualify and they're capable of entering into the program. They will participate in some sort of group call or informational session of some type or another. And then from there, that's usually done virtually. From there, they're going to be scheduled for an interview. They will conduct the interview with usually done virtually once again because we have a big population all across the country. That virtual interview, then those candidates are going to be placed into buckets. They're going to be, and those based upon the number of slots that we have, then we're going to accept those candidates into this program. Now, something I do want to say is if the candidate is not selected into this program, this isn't the only opportunity for them, and not by a long shot. They can make direct application to any of the AJTCs. We are only one avenue for that candidate to come into. We're not the only avenue. But the process, I think the biggest thing is that we have a lot of applications that come in, and we have to do it in blocks. And sometimes when you haven't heard from anybody for 30 or so days, it feels like your name fell off somewhere. But we are interviewing in blocks and accepting in blocks. So that process from application to initial entry to interview to acceptance is usually somewhere in the 30 to 60 day range. That's about what that looks like. Mm-hmm.
And to kind of piggyback off the scenario which you laid out perfectly, we did touch about that it's not the only way to get in. So we work really close with the veterans because we want to find them a career path. Yes, we want to keep it in organized labor, but if they interview and they find out a little bit more about the trade and it's like, it's not for me, well, we have an inside electrician program. If that's not for you, here's a contact at an iron worker or a concrete fitter or HVAC. Whether they get accepted or not, I think we're invested on just getting them a career, helping them, help pay back them for what they did for us. And I think that's why this program is so successful. I think, everybody that comes through it is so appreciative. And I know I'm getting off on a little tangent, but a personal story is when I come down for graduation, it really tugs on my heart because we have parents that come up, even when you were here, thank you for what you did for my son. We didn't do anything for your son or daughter. We gave them the opportunity, they did this. Yeah. Very seldom do we see parents come up and see the value in the opportunity, and I'm getting worked up now, but the opportunity that they provided for them. So our focus is on them first and foremost.
Very cool. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pull it back just a little bit, and I want to talk about, it's a question for all of you. I'll ask you, Robbie. Advice for interviewing. It's a question I get a lot. I'm sure you dealt with it quite a bit.
Yep.
Some solid advice for how to conduct yourself in an interview.
You got to sell yourself. We interview 50 people in a 2-day period, and so we might only take 25. So you got to sell yourself. You need to show some initiative. You got to speak up. We see so many people come in and they sit in that chair and they're just very quiet and they just barely answer the question you ask. And instead of elaborating more on themselves and what they've accomplished, what their career goals are, where they want to be, and why they want this job opportunity. So the biggest thing is, selling yourself to the industry. Whether you're applying for Veep or Missouri Valley, talk about some history of either the Veep program or what did you do in the military, or maybe some stuff about Missouri Valley. If you show interest in Missouri Valley, that's going to show them this is why this guy wants to be here. He's even researched us.
Yeah.
So.
Don't be afraid to ask questions back. Yeah. Don't just go up and just one-way conversation. You're in there for a job interview, so ask questions. Get pertinent information you need to go where you want to go.
I think that's key, right? Like a person could get really nervous and scared about being there, and afraid to ask a question. But that even ties into the trade, right?
Yep.
If you're getting into the trade and you're just starting out, don't be afraid to ask those questions. Start with your interview asking questions. That's good. That's a good one.
And I think too, like we stated before, it's an investment in your career. From sitting where they were for many years, we were kind of the same way. We would interview in 10 states every month, and there'd be 200 people in each area. But we're judging the candidate, you in front of us, in anywhere from a 10 to 20 minute interview. And you know, one of the standard questions is, what do you think a lineman does? And some will do the research, and they can't speak our terms, but they can speak to what we do. And then others show up and they're like, well, Kevin said I'd be good at this and make a lot of money. Well, right there, your interview is pretty much over. Point being, invest in your future. Come in educated. Some of the veterans or applicants that we work for, they submit all their paperwork. What do I need to do next? Well, on that information sheet, there's 8 basic knots. Try them. And then they'll email us back, all right, what's next? Okay, do this, look up this. So now it does 2 things for us. It shows initiative, and now I have a little bit of better understanding of what they're getting into. But the person that just shows up and does no research, his interview's done in 10 minutes maybe,
Yeah.
And we see that a lot, unfortunately.
Enthusiasm.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
And, just to talk on that 1 minute, because it's one of the farces that are out there. You watch all the social media and it's like, hey, I got my interview at all that. What do I need to dress? Wear a nice pair of boots, don't look like you just came from church, show them that you work. Well, you want to represent yourself, Even if you come in a 3-piece suit, that still shows you that you're interested, you're in. You took that time to shave and stuff like that. Now, if you're coming right off like a job site for your interview and then going back, we get it. Just tell us that. But represent yourself so you're marketable, Let all the social media, there's all these avenues that you can get pertinent information. I mean, one of our websites is electricaltrainingalliance.org. You file down on the first page and it's training centers, and there's direct contacts and websites and everything to every training center across the country. And there's so much information on their websites, but how many people actually look at it? They just want to pencil whip the application and then show up. So take pride in what you're applying for.
It's hard to filter through. A bunch of information when it's all just in written form. I'm that type of person as well. I don't read very fast. I don't like to read. I don't enjoy it. So getting on a website and just reading information, that's why I love podcasting, and that's why I love interview format like this. They can listen to it in the car, watch it on YouTube. It's a great way to consume the information. That's why I like things like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the IBEW, and feel free at any other time in this to talk more about it if something pops up. I want to talk about Quanta Services. So a question for David. Who is Quanta Services?
Sure. So Quanta Services is an electrical contractor. So we are not a utility. We do not own or operate any portion of the electrical grid, but we work on it. We're larger than any utility in the U.S. We employ more IBEW linemen than anyone else in the U.S. does. We're a huge beneficiary of organized labor. We operate in all 50 states in the U.S., number of countries internationally, every province in Canada, and the company, we do everything from the meter to the generating station.
Fantastic. Okay. I want to talk about opportunities, and one opportunity in particular that we've all been talking about is the Veteran Electrical Entry Program, or the Veep program. So let's talk about Veep. Let's talk about the opportunity that exists for veterans through that program.
Yeah.
Go ahead and start.
So we started a partnership with the IBEW in 2020 to bring to life the outside Veteran Electrical Entry Program. Quanta Services has a training facility located in LaGrange, Texas, and that facility runs an employees-only training program that is here at that training facility. The only way that you can come to this facility is if you are a current employee of Quanta Services. However, as part of this partnership, we also bring in veterans that come into this program as well. So these people, they interview through the ETA Veep program, and then they apply, and ultimately, if they're accepted, they come here to attend training at the Lazy Q. That training is 18 weeks in length. At the end of that, it's 18 physical weeks. There's a couple of breaks in there, so the guys get a little bit of time off, so it's about 16 weeks of actual training. And it's like boot camp for linemen. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. We run 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. I always tell guys they're going to go to bed every night with a sore back and a sore brain. So they, if they successfully complete the program, they have a seat in a truck and a job with Quanta Services, and then an opportunity with the IBW apprenticeship program at that point. I think I want to add one more thing to that, which is probably the important element of this, which is that line work is not for everyone. And we have a lot of people come into our program, and I want to see every single person graduate from that program. We are desperate for linemen in this country, but we're desperate for the right linemen in this country, and so we do have a washout rate. It is not a guaranteed pass program. You have to be successful at it in order to graduate from the program, and that's an important thing for people to understand. If they're coming into it, just to give it a try, I understand that mentality because we don't all kind of know what we want to do, but it's a lot to bite off if you're coming into it to just give it a try.
Yeah.
And so there is a washout rate, there is a success and failure rate here, but the carrot at the end is apprenticeship and a job and an amazing career.
So we'll dive into the IBEW side of the Veep program. Mm-hmm. Expand a little bit more. You've shared a bunch of things on your side of the program,
sure.
The Quanta side of the program.
Mm-hmm.
Dive a little bit into what separates, because I know everyone out there hears the word line school, mm-hmm. and there is a difference between what happens here as a line school, as a pre-apprenticeship line school, and what happens at other line schools in the country. Not good, bad, indifferent, whatever, but just what separates your program from the others.
So first of all, we're kind of a weird animal. We're the only one like us in the country. You can't pay to come here. You have to be nominated or interviewed to attend the program. So that is a certain pool of candidates there. The other part of it is that I always make this joke. I say everybody wants to be there's no shortage of people who want to be linemen, but there's a shortage of linemen, right? And that's really where we can train you to do anything, but those intangible skills that you have to show up to the party with, that's what we want to see if you have it here. That's the purpose of pre-apprenticeship. The purpose of pre-apprenticeship is to see if you're going to be successful in apprenticeship, and that's the relationship and the partnership that we have between the IBW and our program. Is that if you make it through this, I believe, and history says, that you're going to be successful in apprenticeship from there.
So you have a washout rate,
mm-hmm.
Which you talked about. Name or list some of the components of your course that are different, because there are some pieces of the puzzle that are different than what they do in the other line schools as well. So maybe just like lay out your course a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. So the program is the program, while it's 16 weeks in length, can almost be broken into two halves. The first 6 weeks is a lot of initial entry training into what is line work, and so we're talking climbing. Climb a lot when we're here, do equipment operation. We're going to do electrical theory, we're going to do your basic introductory safety courses, rigging courses, that type of thing. And so that right there is a lot of the academic elements of it and the academic portion of it to be successful. I would say in order to be a good lineman, you don't have to understand physics and theory or anything like that, but you have to understand, when I do this, what's going to happen to that. And if you can go understand those mechanical connections, I think that's an important part of it. So academically, there's an element to that we experience a washout for people that are not capable of meeting the academic standard. And then the other portion of it is mechanical aptitude. So mechanical aptitude is going to mean that thing, when I do this, what's going to happen here? And the way we're going to develop those skills. I always tell people, we are never going to test you on anything we didn't teach you how to do and give you lots of time to practice. So, but then you just have to demonstrate to us that you've retained and are capable of executing these skills. So, the academic portion of it, the mechanical aptitude portion of it, And then, and finally, it's professionalism. So there's the professionalism is demonstrating that work ethic, demonstrating that team work ethic, demonstrating that attitude about the trade and about the industry and about the interest and enthusiasm in it. We're not, if you have a bad day, we're not here to try to decide who we like and who we don't like. But what it is can you work with a group of people, and then your peers are going to assess you and say, this is a person that when there's a hole to be dug, he's got his hands on a shovel and he's with us doing it. Gotcha. So those are, when we see attrition, those are the reasons we see attrition.
Fantastic. Jason, could you share a little bit of the history of the Veep program and go into the IBEW's involvement with this partnership between Quanta and the IBEW?
Sure. So, our company, Electrical Training Alliance, with the IBEW and NECA, that's one of the third parties that we haven't talked about yet, National Electrical Contractors Association, saw a big demand, and for the same reasons. Most of the people that are in the IBEW, a vast majority, are all retired servicemen and women. Where can we fit them in, and how can we get that population? So, they got together and, made a contract and agreement, and we piloted it up in Alaska probably roughly maybe about 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that worked out great because they have a great base up there where it's multidiscipline, and theirs is a little bit different, so they can actually do some of the schoolwork remotely, computer, we call it the LMS, and then they show up for a couple tasks, so they can still have a life or during separation, and then go on that way. And then from that little pilot program, more and more people, industry-wide, our training partners, the IBEW, NECA, us, we just kept building off it. And now that program is really doing well. And then we also saw a need for the line side, because right now, demographics that we hear all the time is we could use 10 to 60,000 linemen a year. And then we have this whole area that we can recruit from. And David's leadership and the leadership with Quanta here put an awesome program together. Getting on base was the best thing that they did, because when you guys separate, you don't hear about line work. You don't hear about unions. Do you want to be a truck driver, a welder, or this, that, and the other thing? And they're great, but that's not for everybody. When they got involved and just started attacking and going after people, it's been incredible. So for us, our success story is, and I agree 100% with David, is it's not a guaranteed pass. It's not a guaranteed seat in the class. You're going to earn it every day. And it does a lot of things for the industry. So when they turn out a graduate, what we try and do is get them into apprenticeship. So we do the pre-apprenticeship here. They be able to start their full-time apprenticeship. But what is provided to them with these candidates, these graduates, is most of them have their CDL. All of them are qualified climber, first aid, CPR, go on, there's lists. It's less that they have to do. Now, they also come down and they, survey the school, make sure everything's up to snuff, and provide feedback and work on different things. So they know what they're getting out of the school. So that makes their job a little bit better, a little bit easier. But most importantly, for the contractors that we work for, we're giving them an employee, an apprentice, day one, that can do a lot of things that somebody off the street, just applying during normal methods, can't do. They have their CDL so they can drive the equipment. They can climb poles, so on and so forth. So we're providing to our contractor a very productive day one worker, and that shows value to them. That's why the industry got together and backed this program, because it helps them. We all work as an industry. It helps everybody.
Cool. Kevin, what are you guys looking for out of a veteran coming into this side of it now? Like, they've gone through the program at the Lazy Q, and now they're coming into the apprenticeship side of it. What are you looking for?
Well, basically the same thing, that David looks for down here when they come in. You're looking for that team spirit, just like you're saying. If you're going to be in there, everybody's going to be in with a shovel. The knowledge, So they're a little bit ahead of just somebody coming in off the street. So you have that off of it. I don't know if it was mentioned yet, the LMS, they get the first year LMS coming out. So, right there, you have the first year book work done. Because it's not just all about climbing and physical work. You have book work you have to do also. There's 3.5 years of it. So they come out ahead with that. They come out with the work ethic out of here, advanced knowledge. I mean, it's a no-lose situation. We haven't had anyone that I know of that has come out of the school that's failed, and we have a 3-week boot camp that they go to. Nobody's failed.
Robbie, what's your experience with students exiting this program?
It's been great. We kind of partnered with the Quanta when they started the Veep program to streamline guys right from Veep into Missouri Valley's apprenticeship, and we give them credit for the first year books like Kevin stated, and we give them what's called a direct entry. The direct entry into apprenticeship means they skip that interview process. They don't have to wait for an interview. They don't have to take the aptitude test. They skip all that, kind of go to the front of the line, and when we start our next block of apprentices, we usually start about 30 at a time. They go to the front of that list and we bring them in as soon as possible. So that way when they graduate, we're getting them into apprenticeship as fast as possible. So there's not a big interim waiting period there. And we have been able to work with POWER and some of the other contractors when work does slow down. We can't start new apprentices unless we have a job for them. So sometimes we have to find them a spot, even though we don't have an apprentice spot for them. We'll work with the contractors, find them a spot, even if it's working around the shop, delivering materials, stuff like that, until, 2 weeks later, we're bringing you into apprenticeship, come up for boot camp, and then we're starting them at Missouri Valley, so to speak.
All right, Jason, I heard you mention NECA. What is NECA? What is that all about? What does that stand for? What's their involvement with the program?
So in our industry, it's really 3 parts. The IBEW, which is the men, NECA, which is the contractors that get the work. We work for those contractors. And we can't exist without one party or the other. NECA stands for National Contractors Electrical Association. So, I might be working for MJ Electric today, and things change, and the apprenticeship, or even linemen, they want to move closer to home, whatever it may be, and they call the union hall and they say, PAR has an opportunity here. It's the same manpower, just a different hard hat, same contractor. And why they're really important is because they do so many things for the industry in conjunction with the family, but they help pay our insurance. They help pay our retirement. Speaking from apprenticeship is they pay into the apprenticeship fund so we can train our next lineman, next apprentice, so on and so forth. If we lose one of the 3 fingers, it's not good for anybody, but they play a solid role for us.
Well, and speaking from the contractor side of this is why it's a partnership, and this is how this works. And it's the apprenticeship is a joint apprenticeship program. The Veep is a feeder into that apprenticeship program. NECA is Quanta is a member of NECA. This is a partnership between the IBEW and the contractors within NECA.
And it's unique because, yes, we are competitive. Contractors got to make money, but everybody is on the same mission. Nobody can be successful with one or the other. So I think that's huge. But I think that might be a misconception sometime when we send an apprentice out and they only know one company. Well, what's this or who's this? They need to know the role, and nothing really changes. You're still going to work the same. You're still going to be in a truck or climbing a pole. It's just your hard hat changes and the signature on your paycheck.
Ticket number stays the same.
Yep.
Couple other things that I wanted to not miss was, and I'll just mention the 2, was you talked about it, something to do with an honorable discharge and what that means, as well as your recent involvement with SkillBridge. If you could touch on those 2 things.
Absolutely. So part of the program, and even in the area-wise, we do look for, and I believe I'm correct, you can cut this out, right? Okay. No?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The honorable discharge for military under normal means of entry, right?
Right.
You still have that. And we still have that in the Veep program. So you need to be honorably discharged to qualify for the program. As far as SkillBridge, we are not 100% approved yet. We're almost there. But some of the misconceptions that's out there is, hey, I'm going through SkillBridge. I filled out my application. When do I start? Well, there's still a process that Dave outlined, you know, questionnaire, resume, interview, selection, so on and so forth.
Acceptance.
Acceptance.
That's part of it. You have to be accepted into the program, and this is, you have to apply and be interviewed and accepted. That's a big distinction we need to make on that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then the last thing, just going back to one of your previous questions, you know, you asked the group, what's the difference between this school compared to other line schools that are out there? The biggest thing is you're guaranteed a job when you leave. You're not seeking employment. You're not going out and interviewing this or doing construction while you're waiting for something. When you leave here, you graduate, you have a seat in the truck, you're earning a paycheck while you're waiting for apprenticeship. And, you know, we'll talk about further points of apprenticeship.
All right, we've walked a transitioning veteran from active duty into civilian life and through the veteran electrical entry program, how they get into the trade and into pre-apprenticeship. Let's talk about apprenticeship through to becoming a journeyman lineman and what that looks like.
Sure. So basically, to break down what is an apprenticeship, the basics of it is a earn while you learn module. Earning on the job is 7,000 hours of on-the-job training experience. That all gets documented monthly. Each individual has to turn in timesheets every month, and that's how we keep track of your hours for the Department of Labor. And our apprenticeship, what sets the Joint Apprenticeship and Training Committees aside, our nationwide apprenticeships aside, is they're federally recognized by the Department of Labor, and we're the only apprenticeships that are actually federally recognized. So to walk you through that apprenticeship module, 7,000 hours on the job, and then you come into class. Each apprenticeship training committee has different class time hours, but the average is about 144 hours a year. So what that means is you're coming into a classroom setting, off the job, learning for 144 hours a year. And then you're going back out on the job to learn that next step of apprenticeship. The apprenticeship's set up for a 7-step program. What that means is there's 1,000 hours broke down into each step classification. So as a first step, you make a base wage, and when you become a second step after 1,000 hours and you do your on-the-job training and you do your bookwork and pass your test, you get a raise every 6 months or 1,000 hours. So you get a raise every 6 months all the way through from first to 7th step. And then after 7th step becomes journeyman. But obviously there's a lot to learn throughout that process. It's a 4-year program. So as you're going through, you're getting raises, you're taking tests, you're coming into class, you have on-the-job training curriculum that you have to pass, you have practical assessment tasks that we have for each step classification. And what that means is all the way through your program, there's certain practical assessments that you need to show competency-based skills in as an apprentice. And you have to be able to do that as well as pass your written exams. And if anywhere you fail those, then you could get pushed back until you get caught back up again. So it's about a 4-year program to get through from first step apprentice to journeyman lineman.
Kevin, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, Robbie covered it pretty well. I would say, you know, Robbie and I are sitting here. We're 2 of the JATCs across the United States. There's 9 of us total. All of us are the same, but we're a little bit different as far as, you know, what we require for entry and some of our classes, the way they're structured. But it's all based on the same model. So yeah, that's the one thing. You know, no matter where you're at, you know, we cover 8 states, kind of the Midwest region, and going toward the East Coast. So you know, that would be an outbound if you wanted to go to Ohio or Kentucky or West Virginia. You know, Robbie's, you know, what, Illinois, or not Illinois, I'm Illinois.
Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, that area. So depending on, we work with David and his team down here a lot when guys, you know, weeks before they're graduating, we're getting in contact with the Veep graduates. And David's like, hey, Robbie, this guy wants to come to work in Wisconsin. And he might contact LBAT and say, hey, John over here wants to go to work in Ohio. And we're getting in contact with those guys well ahead before they graduate and trying to give them, like, what's my next step? And what do I need to do so I can smoothly transition from Veep graduation into LBAT or Missouri Valley?
And just go straight to work.
Right, or one of the other 9 area-wides. So it's not just us 2, there's 9 of them, and we don't want all of them. We'll take all we can get, but ultimately we want to get these people where they want to go work.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when they're transitioning out of the military, they want to go back to wherever that might have been, whether it be Texas or Iowa. So we want to get them the best possible chance to succeed which is going to be where they want to go. Because if you force someone into somewhere they don't want to go, they have a smaller chance of succeeding.
I think one thing too that, for the new person watching this or listening to this cast is Robbie did a great job stating that we are the only federally approved Department of Labor apprenticeship in the country. And how we can operate like that is a set of standards. So the same thing he teaches, it's the same thing across the country. That's the goal to become a journeyman lineman. We also spend a lot of time talking about travel, but what does that look like? So the Department of Labor says in our standards, you're going to do 500 hours of transmission, 2,000 hours of energized primary work, 500 hours URD. So when we talk about travel, if I'm working for Quanta and I'm on a transmission job and I satisfy those transmission hours, Quanta will have the first opportunity to transfer me to a different job to get, say, distribution or underground. But if they don't have it, then the apprenticeship will transfer them to Aldridge or MJ Electric, and then that's where they're there. So to fulfill your apprenticeship agreement, you might have to go out of state and work for different contractors, because at the end of the day, we get we call it the journeyman lineman ticket, the golden ticket from the IBW. The best benefit for all of us, and I think that's why we love it, is right now we're in Texas. If I want to pick up my family and go to California, I call the Union Hall in California and say, here's my ticket number, what work do you have? I accept or deny. Say I'm there for 2 years, I want to go to Utah. Same process. We're not pigeonholed into one area our entire career. But that's achievable being from the federally approved Department of Labor. So when we talk about travel, you have to travel to get that experience. And I think that kind of sets us aside as the industry, is because when you raise your ticket to get your golden ticket, you will have transmission experience, distribution, underground, everything that the DOL said. So we're very well rounded. So if a hurricane happens in the south and we go down and fix a substation and they say, okay, we got a traffic intersection down, our guys can do it. Or whatever it may be, we can transition. We're not one-trick ponies. That's the biggest thing that I like about apprenticeship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the flip side of that, I mean, I know we've talked a lot about travel, but in nowadays market, I mean, you can pretty much stay pretty close to home or your base of operations too. Work is that good nowadays. Coming up in the 80s, 90s, you did travel quite a bit, but there's a lot more options out there nowadays. When I came through, there was 250 apprentices in the LBAP program. Now we have over 1,700. So everything's growing.
So before we conclude, I just want to open the floor up to all you guys. If there's anything that I missed or anything that we missed talking about that we want to highlight, now's the time to open it up.
Jason said it at the beginning, but it's one of the best kept secrets out there. It really is. I'd never heard of this industry when I was getting out of the military, and I kind of fell backwards into it. And it's, I'm shocked nobody knows about it. I really am. It's, it's exciting. It's interesting. You can support a family on it. It's, it is never going to be outsourced. It's recession resistant. There's adventure and change and challenge, and it's like nothing I know about. I know that there are similarities with craft skill labor and other industries, but those industries have a tendency to be boom and bust. And this is this industry. I've been through 2 recessions now, in this industry, and nothing really changed for us in 2009. And when everybody was panicking, we were busy as could be, and it's a secret that nobody knows about, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I never knew anything about it, and I love it.
Yeah, Jason kind of said it earlier. We're behind the scenes. Nobody kind of notices us, and then once you do, we're everywhere. So that's something to challenge. The people that are interested in the industry. See if you can see some linemen working, and sit back and watch them. It only takes a few minutes, and you can see and just get that feel of what happens. I'm sitting there looking at this poster here and just thinking, winter storm out and, basically embracing the hard times, but the rewards behind it too. But stop, think, look at it, and you'll learn a lot just seeing it. And then once you do, you'll never quit looking up, watching the insulators when you're going down the road.
I think it's a good fit for people too. I don't mind saying I'm 50. When I went through high school, all they did was push college and college and college. Mm-hmm. And our career guidance counselor was like, you might want to think about this. So I had a negative opinion of myself, But one thing that we've all talked about is I work hard. I grew up on a farm, so that's all I knew. I had good common sense, and you can learn something if you're interested in it. Now I look back, when I graduated high school, I didn't think I was going to amount to anything. I thought I was going to be bottom lower class. And I'm not saying I'm rich, but I got 5 kids and 2 grandkids. This career made one hell of a life for me and my family. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's something I never thought. And I go back to my graduation thing too. And I also go back to our graduation when we go to NTI. There's a large demographic that people really didn't have our back in or didn't really see a good future for us. And then when you watch the family show up and they're proud, whether it's walking across the stage at graduation tomorrow or walking across the stage as an instructor school, their parents are there. And they made that life, they decided it, they achieved it, they paid for everything. You can't ever take that away from them. But what message, as you get older and you have kids and they see what you did, that just opens up the world for them, Now we're in a demographic where, college might not be the best thing. But if you know how to work hard and, focus people in the right direction, it's awesome. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I always tell everybody you can travel to amazing locations, you can do some really great, interesting work, meaningful work, and you meet some amazing individuals along the way. So thanks guys for being a part of this.
Absolutely.
And appreciate you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
My name's Iannelli, from California, really, but been living all over the place since I got out of high school. And yeah, that's pretty much that.
What branch of the military did you come from?
I was in the Army. I was an airborne infantryman, and for those years I was a sniper, and a few deployments, 2 to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan, and after that I got out. That was it.
How did you find out about this program?
I met one of the instructors, Andrew Morris. He kind of told me about it. I was looking to leave the railroad. I'd been there for about 7 years. And that was a big move, trying to figure out what I was going to do. And so I just decided, I'll try it out. So I applied here and saw what happened. And I ended up getting accepted, so it kind of worked out.
What made you want to leave the railroad?
The way it was all going automated. So I was a conductor, and I had maybe 10 years left at that job. I'm 34 now, so doing the math, I was been 44 when I didn't have a job potentially, and I didn't want to restart at 44, so I figured I'd do it now while I was able to.
Being 34, how have you found this career, this job so far with the age that you're at?
I was nervous, I guess, maybe a little bit at first, but I try to stay in pretty good shape with, bow hunting, all that stuff. So I felt pretty confident that I could physically do it. I just wasn't sure how it was going to work out, joints and whatnot, and climbing. But it ended up working out. So, yep.
How has this change maybe transformed your life?
Well, that's a tough one. More to follow on that because it's just so new. But I feel like with the railroad, when I left the Army, I had a sense of purpose. That was great. With the railroad, not so much because it was just point A to point B. For me, you're not really working to accomplish a certain goal. This, you could kind of see the end result, what you're doing. So that's pretty neat so far.
If you hadn't have found this, or if this hadn't have worked out for you, what was your plan B?
I put all my money on red on this one. I didn't know. This was it, yeah.
If you could go back now to when you first found out about line work and this program, and having probably had a flood of questions. Pick one question that you had that you have an answer for now, and what was that question, and maybe what was the answer to that question?
I had tons of questions. I didn't know anything about line work, linemen, what they did. I just saw them as like a local utility, like you just work for the town and you just work on the power lines. I didn't know it was a big picture kind of business where you just go all over the place and the freedom of movement. So a lot of those questions have been answered, but a lot of questions I didn't know to ask that I have an answer to, I guess.
What advice would you give the next group of applicants coming into this program?
Show up in shape and be ready to put out. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot more academically stringent than I could have imagined. I didn't really think it would have been that difficult, honestly, but it was tough. So, I mean.
What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Renard Lawrence. I'm from all over Southern California, but mainly in the Inland Empire, Riverside County, and been there for the past about 8 years.
Oh, cool. What branch of the military you come from?
Navy.
Navy. What job did you have in the Navy?
I was an electronics technician. I basically worked on exterior communications and radars.
How did you find out about this program?
So this program, I actually learned about it from a friend of mine that's his brother is a lineman in Colorado, and he told him about it, and then he told me they both found out through TikTok. And at first when I heard about it, I didn't think it was real because he was telling me how you go to the school, once you graduate, you get pretty much direct entry into a IBW NECA accredited apprenticeship. And I didn't believe it, but when I looked into it, I was like, oh, it's true. So I applied, got an interview, and then sure enough, I got accepted.
Did you know much about trades or apprenticeship programs prior to that?
I did. I've been a groundman out of Local 47 for about 2.5 years.
How did you find out about that?
When I was still in the military, I was looking to transition out, and all I really knew is that I liked working around electricity because that's somewhat what I did in the military, and then I wanted to do something more hands-on, but I also wanted something that was not only mentally challenging, but physically challenging as well. So that's why linemen stuck out to me the most. And that's what I went with. So once I got out of the military in 2020, immediately got my CDL, reached out to some linemen in the trade. I have my mentor right now. He's actually a journeyman lineman with Southern California Edison, and he pretty much walked me through the whole process, and ever since then I've been working, and here I am now.
Very cool. How has this transformed your life?
Oh, this school has helped out my life immensely, not only because I know I'm comfortable once I leave here going into an apprenticeship that I'll be pretty much ready and have the experience to be knowledgeable on pretty much anything that I do in the apprenticeship, but also because it'll make me more competitive. So being a Southern California native, Cal Nev's one of the most competitive districts to get into, and this school is gonna really look really, really good on my resume. So it's helped me out immensely.
Very cool. What was your plan B if this hadn't worked out?
If this hadn't worked out, I'd be right back on the books at Local 47, doing it the hard way, you know.
If you could go back to the start before you came here, or even rewind to just getting out of the military, if you had questions you needed answers for about this trade, pick like one question that you had that was a big question, and now that you maybe have that answer for it, what was the question? What was the answer?
I'd probably say what would be the most challenging thing about the trade, and then try to gain as much knowledge about that as I could before stepping into it.
Cool. What advice would you give future applicants to this program?
I would say definitely come ready to work and give 110%, because you know this class started with 49 and we're down to 33. So this isn't just a pass. You know, you're not just going to walk your way through here. So come ready. You know, if you get this opportunity, don't waste it, because it is a golden opportunity.
Okay, this question is one I'm asking everybody for the rest of the summer as part of a program that we're doing. So don't feel there's any one answer to this. You can go in any direction you want if you even want to answer it. What does the word power mean to you?
The word power to me means it means a lot. You know, electricity, it's our nation's lifeblood. Without it, we don't have a society. So I feel like power, in terms of what that means, is it keeps, you know, electricity and power keeps the world going around.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
What's your name and where are you from?
So I'm Zach, and I'm from a little bit from everywhere, but mainly spent most of my life growing up in Vermont.
What branch of the military did you come from?
Marine Corps.
Marine Corps. What job did you have in the Marine Corps?
I was a 1391 bulk fuel specialist.
Explain that a little bit.
So I was basically a glorified gas station attendant, but wasn't the job I wanted, but it's the job I got, and tried to make the best fit through my career. And it's actually a pretty cool job. Got a lot of really cool opportunities to work with some pretty cool organizations through that.
Cool. How did you find this program?
So I found out about this program because I literally a couple weeks before I found out about this program, I was deciding to make a career change from wildland fire to this, because I ran into some linemen, talked to them, and was actually enrolled at NLC in Idaho, and talking to a buddy that went through there, and he had said that there's not a lot of work once you get out of school trying to get yourself in the door still. So I was kind of looking around on Facebook at lineman pages, trying to see who was hiring, where, and I stumbled across a post from an Army guy who's saying that he had about 6 months left in, and he was looking to make the transition into this career as well. And there was 20 comments of lazy Q, and I'd never heard of it. And I was like, all right, if these people are all saying that, I at least got to do some due diligence and look into it. So I looked into it, and I was like, okay, this is too good to be true. There's got to be a catch. And so I went through Next Stop Vet, reached out to them. I had missed they had done a big conference call with a bunch of vets for the school and for the program, and I'd missed that. But I had talked to the lady. She said there was, if I could get all my stuff done pretty much right away, that there might still be a shot that I could get into this class. And so I got her all I could, and ended up here a month later, and couldn't be happier.
How's the experience been so far?
Really awesome. Coming from working with guys that have varying levels of experience in the field already as groundmen, and myself having absolutely no experience coming in, and being able to just lean on them to learn some other ways that stuff can be done to get the same result, and just being able to learn so much here. I don't feel like I'm a know-it-all, but I definitely don't think that I am just some guy walking in the door now, for sure. And that's been really, really nice for me.
If this hadn't worked out, what would your plan B have been?
My plan B, I was either going to stick with wildland fire, or I was looking at doing ranch management up out of Montana.
Ranch management, do you have some cowboy ranching background?
A little bit. I grew up in Vermont. My family had a big horse farm, and while I was in the military, I was doing some ranch work on the side. And when I got out, I would do my 6-month season of wildland fire, and then was doing some ranch work on the side of that as well.
One area that Quanta is pushing into is recruiting from that ranch rodeo group of individuals. What's your thoughts on that? You think that that's a good move?
Yeah, I think for me, the way I look at it is my goals in life are to eventually own and be able to run and manage my own ranch. And being a hand is great, and it's a great experience. But I mean, ranching is not a market where there's a lot of money to be made so much anymore. So the way I look at it is this is a really great skill with a really great group of guys, and linemen do pretty all right. So if I can do this for a couple of years or a bunch of years, and basically set myself up so that I can retire somewhat early and run my ranch, and then have something to pass down to my kids. I think a lot of people in the ranch world look at it like that, because I mean, I tried to do the rodeo life and chasing that, and that's paycheck to paycheck, town to town, chasing the rodeos, and it's all fun and games for a while, but eventually you kind of have to get a big boy job and make money, and then if that's really what your goal is, then come back around to it, but you got to do something in the interim.
Do you think the ranch and rodeo individual is suited for this type of career?
Yeah. I think they're very hard-headed, and so a lot of them, once they set their mind to something, they can do it, and I think with this school especially, that's something you need to do. For me, it's a lot of skills that I haven't really had to use in a while, like basic math and stuff like that, and it was definitely the first couple of weeks, it was a real like sucker punch, and then kind of just like started to get back into it, but yeah, it takes a lot of hard work and being up through the night or up really early, or being flexible to move anywhere and do whatever needs to be done to get stuff done, and I'd say that's very big in the ranching community.
Cool. Before you started in this, you probably had some questions about the industry. What's one question that you had that you now have an answer for? Let's give the question and the answer.
Let's see. Well, I think my biggest question coming into this was really like some of the differences between utility work and like cooperative work and just contracting work. When I first kind of was like looking into this and coming into this, I really wasn't expecting to like travel so much. I thought it was going to be very much so like you work for the town that you want to work for, and that was kind of it. And so I think the biggest question that's been answered to me is that you have those three different, I guess, career like fields within the career field that basically offer you, if you're looking for something more home, where you can be around your family more and stuff like that, you have utilities and cooperatives that are really good for that. But if you're like me, where you're young and you kind of want to get out and travel and see more of the country, then line construction is probably the best way to go.
What's some advice that you give to the next group of applicants to the veteran program?
Brush up on your math, for sure. It's physicality-wise, it's difficult, but mentally, it's been tough. Just testing, we have at least 1 to 2 tests. It felt like almost the whole time through, and it's hard. But if you can just buckle down, they have a really sweet setup. I know for me, if I was at any other school and I could go out on the weekends and do this and do that studying wouldn't have been my main thing, and I probably would have wound up not doing as well as I've done here.
Great. All right. Last question is, it's not one that you feel like you have to answer. I'm asking it to a lot of different people throughout the summer, and there's no right or wrong answer to it. What does the word power mean to you?
Power to me, I'd say it means, especially after graduating this school, that I'm employable for the foreseeable future. Power's not going anywhere. It is a big, big, big part of the world we live in now.
Fantastic. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
All right, what's your name and where are you from?
Kyle Jones. I'm from Merida, Georgia, just about an hour northwest of Atlanta. So I grew up there, and then my family is originally from South Georgia, so I kind of bounced around between there and northwest of Atlanta. And then I was down in Jacksonville for the last 4 years where I've lived, and those are pretty much the only 2 places I've ever lived.
What branch of the military did you come from?
I was in the Coast Guard. I joined back in, what year was that? December of 2017, and I got out on terminal leave the end of October, this past October.
What did your job in the Coast Guard look like?
I was a aids navigation boat crewman, and so it's a couple different things. So I was at an aids navigation team, and so what we did is we worked all the navigational stuff on the waterways, intercoastal waterways, major ports and inlets, so range towers, buoys, day markers, stuff like that. And so I got to do a lot of tower climbing, a lot of rigging, a lot of working on buoy tenders and boats, and going out and working with, helping the big ships coming from offshore and stuff along that nature.
Cool. How'd you find out about this veteran program?
So I knew, looking back, I can't really remember how I wanted to get into line work. I knew I wanted to do it for a couple of years. I kind of was trying to come up with a plan before I got out, and I knew that I wanted to go union. I looked into a couple different line schools, and I knew that the line schools, when it came to the union route, a lot of people said line school wasn't necessarily like those ones you pay for, like NLC or SLTC, where I was planning on going. So I just went ahead and got my CDL, applied at CellCat, I was going to do the long way, and then when I was planning all this, I got a message on Facebook from something I'd posted, a lineman group page from Jason Iannelli with this program, and I kind of ignored it because I was already doing the CDL school route, and I already had I was already talking to CellCat, and I didn't really, it seemed almost like it was too good to be true, everything this program was offering. And then once I got my CDL, and then I signed the books at Local 84 in Georgia, and I got a groundman call to work on a substation with Service Electric, who was a Quanta company, and I think it was about 2 months into working there, I'd already applied at CellCat and was waiting on an interview date, where a couple of guys were talking about lazy queue for the guys that get sent from the companies. And so I was like, wait a second, lazy queue, I feel like there's a program for veterans that gets sent, because they were talking about how awesome it was and all this, and so I was like, I'm gonna go look back at my messages, and I found the messaged Jason back from like 2 months prior, and he hit me back up immediately, and I submitted an application, and I was interviewed and accepted, I think no more than a month later.
How's the experience with the program been so far?
It's been awesome. You look online, you see how awesome it is and everything they claim it's going to do for you, and how the facility is state of the art, and it really is when you first get here. I remember the first day we walked onto the ranch, I was like, wow, this is extremely nice. Like, everything was exactly kind of what I expected, everything they cracked it all up to be. And so far it's been really great. Compared to the people I've talked to that have gone to line schools that you pay $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 for, we get to do a lot more here than they ever would let these guys do at some of these line schools. Like, we get to do a lot more complex work projects versus people I've talked to, what they've actually been able to do. So it's been a great experience coming here.
What was your plan B if line work hadn't worked out?
To be honest, I never really gave it much thought. I knew there was multiple different routes. I knew I wanted to go union. I briefly considered doing the wireman thing, because the 613, the wireman hall, I'm in Atlanta. I kind of talked to them. They reached out to me before I got out, and they kind of offered the apprenticeship with there, but I really wasn't interested in that, because I knew I wanted to be outside. I loved to climb. I loved being outside. I loved working with a crew of 4 to 5 guys just to go out and fix stuff, which is essentially kind of what I was doing prior as well. And so this really seemed like the best path for me, but I really can't think of anything else I would want to do, honestly.
How did you find out about line work originally? Not even just this program, but like, how did you get into line work?
I really don't remember, honestly. I vaguely remember about 2 years into being in the Coast Guard. I knew I loved to climb. I knew I loved working at heights. I think I looked into the cell phone tower thing, maybe, something along the lines of that. But the more research I did and the more people I talked to, it didn't really seem like there was very much progression there. And so I guess I just kind of found line work through that, maybe. But for as far as I can remember, I've wanted to do this. And so the last 2 years has been leading up to this. And so it's really exciting to really be getting out there and start working.
So if you pictured yourself back in the Coast Guard, some of the questions you might have had back then, what's like an answer, like a bigger answer to a bigger question that you might have had about this industry back then?
I know the hard part for a lot of guys is definitely getting started. They don't know where to start, especially union. In the South where I come from, there's a lot of non-union work where it's pretty straightforward to get into a non-union company. It's not very hard, it's not very competitive. They pretty much take anybody into those companies. But when it comes to the union, it's a lot harder to find information. I would definitely recommend the route I was told, and the route I tell everybody now that asks me the same thing, is get your CDL, no restrictions, find your nearest hall or your nearest outside hall, and just sign the books and just go up there in person and talk to them. Like, don't call them, just go up in person, introduce yourself, talk to them, and they're gonna give you all the information you need. And call your local JATC as well, because the people at CellCat that I've talked to, they've been very helpful. They always pick up the phone, and they've always helped me out.
When you applied, so actually we talked about that, you had an in with Jason, so it was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Into this program with Jason. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. What advice would you give the next group of applicants?
The next group of applicants, definitely have your your Class A before you get here. I know a lot of guys are kind of kicking themselves because they don't have that, because now they got to go do something else before they start working, where a lot of us guys that already we're ready to roll. And so we're happy that we did that. That and be ready to study. The physical side of this is, I mean, obviously it's a very physical job, but I think what a lot of people weren't expecting so much was the actual mental aspect of it, as well as the educational aspect. I was never a very good student in school. I hated school, but I actually do love this, and I really enjoy going to class with this. But even then, it really is a lot to study. You have to learn to study. I think the first test we took here was the LMS one, and I think that was the lowest grade I've gotten on a test here. It was that first one, because I just screwed off and just was like, it's not gonna be that hard. Yeah, it was difficult. So study, don't do it to yourself. Just from the get-go, be prepared to study and work hard.
Nice. So you probably heard me say it before, but question I've been asking everybody, don't feel like you have to have an answer for it, and go any direction you want with it. What does the word power mean to you?
Well, for the last 4 months, power has been V times I. So there's that. But I mean, power means a lot of different things. I mean, it's position of authority. Power is what lights our houses. Power is the whole world. But the last 4 months, we've been breaking it down to pretty much that. Just V times I.
Nice. Thanks, sir. Appreciate your time.